Hi there, Internet. It is I, Mark Dittmer, host of Screenaholics, and this is episode 16. I'm going to try to keep eye contact with you, the green dot. No, and really, it's you, all the viewers that are coming through the green dot. All the viewers, yes. The community, the Screenaholics community. Episode 16, my guest is Mimi Pine, a fitness coach, Sacramento area fitness coach, and social media influencer. Mimi was kind enough to join me. We had an hour and 15-minute plus conversation over in Sacramento, the Sacramento area, and we talked about a lot of the talked about the zeitgeist, the culture, dating in 2025 post pandemic. We talked about juicy things came up like body count and dick pics. Uh, it was good to get a women's perspective on the dating scene. We were kind of simpatico on most issues, so not a lot of vicious argument that would probably, you know, I got to look for some more people who I really disagree with. That would be the brave thing to do, I suppose, on my part. But it was very. I think this is a good conversation about some topics. Everybody loves talking about dating. Everybody loves asking single people about their dating and what's going on with it. And so I think it was good to have man and woman talking on the show about that. And but this was not a date. And yet, like, at the same time, I think there's like, I thought afterward, like, oh, I should have flirted with Mimi more. Let me flirt with her now by saying, she's even more lovely in person than she comes across in this podcast. It's been 9 months since I recorded a podcast. Just busy with life. Hope to get a few more out there this coming, year and summer. But there's some other things that have been coming up. But yeah, I forgot about how a lot of the tech works, and it's interesting. I was probably needed to be more militaristic about insisting that the mic always be like this far from the speaker's face. And I went back. What I do is I record on these microphones, and then it digitizes it, and I get a file. It's like a QuickTime file, and then I open it up and I bring it into this Ocean Audio program, and I try to bring up the levels. So I hope you can hear Mimi okay, and but there may be increased background sound because of how I brought up the levels. Again, I hope the audio is good. The other I use these cameras. I use my iPhone camera, and I bought a second camera to use for the two interview subjects, but I never am able to get all the cameras working and the computer plugged in. That became an issue in this most recent episode. I think my computer battery started to die, and like all the outlets in the computer were filled with all the phones and audio stuff that I had plugged into the computer. And so basically, I forget that I barely have the knowledge and equipment to pull this together, and I could use some coaching. Maybe we could have an episode about the technology. But in the meantime, the camera, like the app I use, the OBS app, which is the app I'm using right now to interface all the audio and video. When I added the iPhone camera to it this time, it created this weird little yellow frame around Mimi on the camera that was facing her. So that's interesting. I don't know what to make of it, but like I said, she's definitely a lovely woman, and now a friend of the show. So thanks again. I thank her again for coming on. You can follow her at at MimiPine86 on Instagram. And you can watch this show on YouTube. Just type in Screenaholics. Look for like 9 pictures of my face. And then like and subscribe and share, let's go viral and get everybody addicted to Screenaholics, the show, the podcast about addiction that adds to the problem of addiction by creating more content for people to get addicted to. Here it is, episode 16. Thanks. So, like I was saying, off air, we're just talking about screen addiction is like a kind of my go-to topic. So, but I've talked to mostly men about it. So I'm just curious about like screen addiction as it pertains to women these days. Like, what's the story for women and like navigating this modern, landscape?
Well, that one's definitely a tough one, especially because we've become like the most socially isolated era of all time. And so now we have people that kind of live in more of like a fantasy land. Like they'd rather imagine a life through a screen than actually go out there and live it. And so as a fitness trainer who's, constantly encouraging people to get out and to just, get fit and live life and enjoy, I definitely see the side effects of, social media and the rise of like, yes, everybody living through screens. And I would say that has a big effect on our dating lives now. And dating apps is just making it even worse. Let's call it what it is. Because we spend more time looking for a happily ever after, not actually knowing that there is no such thing as a happily ever after. You create your own happily ever after. So what do we do, and how do we kind of go backwards from there to at least step outside of our comfort zones and go meet people? Because you can't actually get to know somebody through a screen. It's just not possible. You're falling in love with a fantasy, not the actual person themselves.
So, what's your when did you first become aware of online dating? Like how you mentioned that earlier. So like, was it? I mean, you're in your
I'm 38 now.
Yeah, that's right.
So my first experiences were in my mid-20s, I think. So I did actually meet my son's father when I was 27 through Plenty of Fish. He lived in Stockton, and then he moved up to Sacramento to come be with me. And now that I look back on it, yeah, we did not take enough time to get to know each other. It was too much through a screen, and so we kind of rushed into things and got into a serious relationship without even really knowing each other. Whereas back in the day, we kind of organically got to know each other. But now in our today's culture, after college, when do we really go out there and get to know people? And then on top of that, we are overworked, we're overtired, and then you add kids to that too. And so people don't really have the time to go out there and go on dates. And so again, it's really like falling in love with a fantasy, and you don't really know who that person is. Then we rush in to move in with each other, and then you're starting to learn each other. And it's like, it's kind of backwards from like what we should be doing. We gotta take time to get to know each other, find reasons to get out there.
I'm sorry, I was gesturing at you to try to get this thing a little closer. I can't tell, right now. I can't play it back, but I've had that happen where it's like, oh, we're missing, oh no, this is good.
Got it. Okay. So definitely from a female's perspective, dating apps I know is very different for men and women, especially if we're a halfway decent looking female. We're going to get a lot of attention on dating apps. I sometimes get very overwhelmed with the amount of like messages and responses, and then it's like I don't really have time to text 20 different people how my morning is going. And quite honestly, I don't want to. Like, I'm too busy for that. So I end up getting overwhelmed, and then I just kind of like shut down from it, and then I disappear because I just, I don't want to sit here and text somebody for 3 weeks, 3 months, and just, get to know somebody through text. Like, what happened to like even just jump on the phone and have a phone call? But sometimes I feel like even social media and all these posts about women being too demanding for expensive dates or these big extravagant, first dates. Like, I don't even believe that's true. At least from the females that I know, we're totally okay just like going to the park or like go for a hike or go meet up at the gym. We don't require a lot, but we do expect a man to kind of take the initiative, because that's traditionally kind of how men are. And so now we feel like we have to go chase men down, which is also a side effect from online dating, because when we have just this like plethora of guys, we're gonna naturally go after the ones that we find a bit more on the physically attractive side. But like when you meet somebody organically, like we're not looking at the checklist. Like if he happens to be a little shorter than we expect him to be, if he may not be like the exact physique that we want him to be, if we vibe, we vibe, but we can't possibly know that that vibe is there until we meet in person. Because and so a first date is very different than a first meet, in my opinion. Because
what do you mean by that? What's a first meet as opposed to a first date?
so a first meet, if I meet a guy online,
Okay.
and when I meet him in person, I don't know if that vibe is going to be there in person. But if I were to have met him, like say at the grocery store, there's already like I already know the vibe is there. So if I accept a date, that's different. But me accepting a first meet is not the same thing. So I think even for any females, if they do expect a man to go like take her out on an extravagant first date, meeting online, I think is foolish, and I don't think any man should ever accept that, because I don't know, you can't, he's the one that's supposed to spend the money, so that's not fair. Like for him to be expected to spend $100, $200, because let's call it what it is. Even going to Applebee's for two people is like $50, and that's
Yep.
without drinks. And then if you add alcohol to that, $100 easy, and that's not a movie or bowling or anything else. So realistically, a first date can be $200, and that's a cheap one. So for a woman to expect a man to pay that without even knowing if they're going to vibe in person, I think is very selfish on a woman's perspective. Because at least if you meet, grab a cup of coffee, maybe go walk at the park, know that there's that vibe. And then if he wants to take me out on a date, fine. If he wants to spend whatever he wants to spend, he's a grown man, he makes his money, he makes his choices. So I would say on average, those of us decent females, that's how we think. Not, I think social media kind of hypes things up and gives a very negative perspective of like what a real woman is really like. And I mean, I don't know what this young generation is like, because they are also being raised on social media. So a girl in her 20s, I can't tell you what that's like, because I grew up in a time before social media was a thing. But I definitely see this big disconnect. And I'll call it what it is too. There's these videos of these guys that talk about how older men like younger women, and because she tends to be more pure, she tends to be less experienced, and not necessarily in today's culture. I mean, you got to think that in my generation, we were still shunning other females for being like whores or being too promiscuous. So just because a woman is older does not necessarily mean she has a very high body count. Younger girls, it's like they're growing up in this OnlyFans generation. So you'd be surprised how much normalize, like, oh, just go out there and, be yourself and live your best life. I'll find girls in their 20s that have higher body counts than I do. And it's just, so it's everybody's different. So you just have to take the time to get to know what's really out there. But if men still want to continue to live behind a screen and are too afraid to just flat out go meet a girl in person.
Well, so that's like you, so men do have, so you could see it affecting men, like the social media addiction, in that like you get asked out or you get approached digitally way more than you get approached in person. But I guess you mentioned a bunch of things. I have a lot of follow up questions about body count and all this. It's always an interesting topic. But like, but first I'm just going back to the just online dating being all the issues with it. Like, is there what else is there? Like, have you in your lifetime, have you felt like does everybody, what percent of people your girlfriends of of the action is online, or what percent is in person?
So I guess my perspective is a little bit different because I spend so much time in a gym that I do get into a lot of conversations, and I talk to a lot of men and women, but I do talk to a lot of men. And so I will hear their perspective on the dating, situation, even on just like a friend level. And so I feel like I see a lot of fear in men of just like, go talk to a girl, just say hi. I've even had to coach young guys of like, if you see a cute girl in the gym and you're just asking like, hey, are you using this bench? That doesn't actually require me to pull out my headphone. That just is a nod or no, yes or no. But ask like a silly question. Something that's gonna, like, an open-ended question. And even when I've instructed some of these young guys to go out there and just go talk to girls, they got pretty good responses, because we're becoming more and more starved for attention. I mean, that's why the girls' outfits are getting shorter and more revealing, because they just want attention. But again, there's a few bad apples that put out these videos of like, oh, these creeps, don't talk to me. I would say the average female, we are pretty nice, and if we're not interested, we'll just respectfully decline, versus like all this extra oh, don't talk to me, or like, I don't know. I don't really know too many females that are like that. Usually we're kind of nice, and respond in a more positive way. So I've seen sort of, I guess, a shyness in men, like a fear to go approach women. And I see that literally everywhere. It could be at the grocery store, it could be at the gym, it could be at the bar, it could be literally anywhere. And in my own personal experience, because I'm not a young girl, so I will get these older guys that are more age appropriate for me, that are more afraid to talk to me because they think I'm younger. And, once they find out that I'm age appropriate, then I've seen them even like come to my work to come like pursue me. And it's like, but then even at that, it's they do this weird thing of just come around and talk to me, never like hey, I'd really like to take you out sometime. And not every one of us girls are going to take that initiative to ask for your phone number or to ask for you to take us out. Like, I will never ask a man out on a first date. I just don't believe in it. I think I like a more traditional man that's going to ask me out versus me ask him. And I know that there are women that are very bold and they're not afraid to do that, and they probably do get a lot of good responses. But I would say the average female, we don't do that. We wait for men to come talk to us. So yes, I've seen on the women's side, they tend to be a bit more responsive online, only because that takes away that shyness factor. So from there, I don't really know how we can sort of make things a little bit more comfortable for both ends. But I think men do have to kind of get out of that fear zone to just go approach a woman and just ask her.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, catch people up, like, so we met on a dating site, but there was immediately the podcast was like front and center as like, or I put that on my profile as like, oh, I'm looking to interview. I mentioned bartenders, but you're as a fitness coach, I guess the gym almost offers itself as that kind of mix. It's like almost like a bar in the sense that people are checking each other out and that kind of stuff. Does your gym have a bar, or have you worked at?
We do not have a bar. I like to say that a good fitness trainer also doubles up as a therapist, because not everybody's going to go to therapy or open up to a therapist, but sometimes they just need someone to talk to, or especially men. This is a big one for men that I find, as they won't open up to a therapist, but they open up in their own ways. When they start to feel comfortable and the walls start to come down, it's sort of their emotional release. The gym is more of an emotional release than just to go get like jacked up. But men are more physical creatures by nature, so they tend to need something to get that aggression out, whether if it's fighting or the gym or dirt biking, even hunting, just different ways to release. And so sometimes that's why they will open up to a trainer. At least that's what I think, and why I have a lot of guys that will openly talk to me about stuff. And so I get to know them on a bit of a different level and a different perspective, but it's always respectful, and always, I guess, yeah, like in that sense. So like a bartender, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess and then you have this perspective on just seeing how people, like, so both some male and female clients might express their, sort of experiences to you.
I'll know who their little gym crushes are.
But I guess so. The landscape is it's hard to have anything like. What do you like? These are trends you think that are getting more so. Like, do you remember it being different? I guess, or the other question I was thinking of was like, do you have mothers or aunts or older women who talk about what it used to be like, or like?
Oh yeah, I have majority of my clients are in their 70s, so they met their spouses during the time that this was a normal thing. Like, yes, men were the ones that pursued every successful marriage that I've ever seen. The man pursued, and he's the one that got her. And 30, 40, 50 years later, they're still married. And so it kind of takes that initiative from him. But that was also what was culturally taught back then, was, you find a pretty girl and you like her, you go out there and you get to know her. And in my experience from all of my married clients, because I have quite a few of them, they all, as soon as they saw her, they just kind of knew there was something about her that they wanted to get to know more. And so, sometimes they would find different excuses to go talk to her, but they took that initiative. Every single one of them. I don't think I know a single one of them that had been married that long where it wasn't a thing back then. But even so, my sister and her husband have been together 18 years now, and they were each other's like first everything. Cute. They have the cutest story. But yeah, he was the one, and he was very shy when he was first getting to know her. So he got to know me as a friend, and I was the one that pushed him to like go get to know her. And so, sometimes friends do need help. So I would say that's not necessarily a bad thing too. Mm-hmm. As a female, I would get flattered if like a guy were to like send his friend over to talk to me because he was too nervous to talk to me. Because you'd be surprised how many of us women find those types of things really cute. It's just, if we're not attracted back, that's when it's creepy. But if we like the guy, then it's very endearing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so that's so definitely men ask women out maybe in person less than they used to, and then even when they do reach out digitally, then they don't take it to the next step. Some will have the strategy. I mean, I imagine you have some who have the strategy of like, let's meet right away. Like that must you can't not ever, right?
I do. I do anything. I pretty much say anything past 8 texts. I'm gonna get bored and I'm gonna get burnt out.
But yeah, so you have these. So that's another. You have other men who have the strategy of just wanting to. They just want to text like for a long time.
So, here's what I have to bring up. Guys talk too much about sex way too soon.
Oh yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's so frustrating because as a woman, it's like I haven't even met you. Like, I think this is like something to do with OnlyFans or this porn industry or something, but it's like they will like demand nudes or they'll like see stuff and I'm like, I don't even know you, and you want me to send a very provocative photo of me through the internet or like through online, like once you have that doesn't get erased. So to me it's crazy, and it's more harder for me to find guys that will be respectful than to just flat out like, hey, can we just meet for a cup of coffee before you talk about anything sexual? So usually the invites are to like Netflix and chill. To me, as soon as I hear that, it's automatic. Like, oh, he's just trying to have sex with me. I'm gonna ignore you. I will not even respond, or even laugh about it, and straight up tell him no, because for what? And that one is a very common one. There is other sources online because girls talk. We talk to each other, and so we will even share information about, oh, this guy's a dirtbag, that guy's a dirtbag. So this is a common thread that a lot of us women experience, that we feel like that's all men are trying to do is just have sex with us right away. And I don't know whether if that's become the social norm, or what's the side effect to that, but that is something that a lot of us are burnt out on. And we're just kind of like, I'm just done with online dating because I don't want to deal with it. I'm tired of the next guy that just wants to have sex with me. I mean, it's like stand in line. You know, that's what every guy wants that.
Right, and you don't need, like, there needs to be more of you're gonna have more of a process because you can't you're not interested in honoring all those requests, but to push back a little, I guess I assume, you know, this is in the culture, the men are typically terrified of being friend zoned, I suppose. So there's some like push or pull, or I can imagine being disappointed with myself if I'm too well behaved on a first meet. But you're not even talking about that so much. You're talking about even just in the texts. Still, there is it's probably
oh yeah, it'll be like literally immediately in the text. Like 3 texts in, it's like they're instantly talking about sex stuff, and it's just wow. I can't imagine men approaching girls like that 50 years ago. It wouldn't have been a thing. You treated women like ladies, and I get that women acted more like ladies back then. I do understand there's a bit of a dichotomy there, but we have to, like, someone's got to start the change, right? So how do we start the change if both sides are like arguing that the other side is wrong? I think we're all wrong, and we all have to take a different approach.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, no, I imagine there's just a little bit like,
well, if you notice that my photos in my, on my profile, like I don't expose a lot of skin. I'm not over there making like sexual gestures. I don't feel like I portray myself as someone who's interested in stuff like that. So I could at least understand if I was, you know, showing my little booty pics or had my, like, you know, had my cleavage all out in my photos. I could understand why men would approach me that way.
Yeah.
But I don't, and they still do.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like I'm very covered up in all of my photos, and I'm very clear that like I'm more of a classy lady. So I expect to be treated like a classy lady, but it really doesn't matter. Like, they still treat me however they, and I get it. It's from what I hear is it's a numbers game. Men just,
that's right.
Yeah, they just throw out, and so it makes it too easy for them to throw out the numbers to like too many different women and just see who bites. But does it ever occur to guys that we get tired of being just another number?
Or like how much modern sex comes from that, like from men playing that numbers game, and then do women just relent sometimes and be like, or how many of those, you know? I mean, yeah, it's interesting because like what you're saying is like, you know, there's sort of footwork and a whole process that one should go through, and what I'm sort of mentioning is like some men are weary of like, oh, I went through that whole process and I still didn't get whatever I got. But that's not supposed to be a guarantee. Like, you're not saying, well, if you do all this, then you're guaranteed to get the outcome that you want. But that shouldn't be. Still, I don't know. There's just. I guess it also depends on if you're looking for short term something or else versus looking for long term.
So I guess one of the from my personal experience, because I've been abstinent for several years, and I am very upfront with that to get to men. Like, I will say it through the online sources, and just I'd rather just get this out of the way than to have to waste somebody's time or my time. And I get told by men quite often that they're not going to wait to have sex with a woman. And I'm like, okay, that's great. You're not the one for me. Because I get it that it is passed out so casually today.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, if a man wants a classy woman, he's got to expect that of her. And so what I find to be the common misconception is that she will be sleeping with the hot guy or the bad boy or whatever. But then if she likes a guy, she's going to make him wait. I don't know how true that is. That I'm sure there's truth to that. I do believe that. But not every woman is like that. Some of us just really abstain from it because we're just kind of tired of situationships or friends with benefits. And I mean, like, I've had guys ask me, like, whenever I'm ready for friends with benefits, let them know. I'm like, bro, I got a whole tally of you. Like, for what? It's not going to change. Even to the point that I've been offered money for sexual favors. And some of them are actually really attractive. But men are so used to not being told no that, and I think it's a side effect from this OnlyFans era.
The offers are attractive, like the amounts of money, you mean?
No, the guys.
Oh, the guys
that
themselves.
are willing
Okay,
to
got it.
pay for it. Like,
They're good-looking guys, I see, but they're still.
It's really shocking, actually. But I think it's because they're so used to being told yes that the fact that I say no and I stand my ground on that, like, it just, I don't know. To me, it's pretty shocking. And I have another friend that she has been experiencing this lately too. And so I find that to be very interesting that, this is sort of the time that we've come to. And I don't know whether if it is because it's passed out so casually. My assumption is that's what it is that if a guy is a good-looking guy, he will have quite a few options of women that are willing to sleep with him. Oh, sorry.
I'll be sorry.
And
I'm sorry if anybody couldn't hear anything you were saying.
And then, like, I don't know if the tactic to send out unsolicited dick pics works, but, like, guys just send them. And so remember that we are not visual creatures like men are. We don't see something like that and we're like, oh my gosh, I want to go see more of it. Or like, can I stick it in my mouth, please? No, we don't operate that way. I mean, I'm sure some women do, but. So,
okay, here's my pushback on that one. It's not like, oh, hey, look at isn't this beautiful? I mean, maybe in some cases, I don't know, but it's more like, it's supposed to be I think that the positive regard for it, I mean, would be, look at how you make me feel.
Oh, that's a good perspective. Okay. Never really thought of it that way. I don't really have one, so I can't think of it that way. I can definitely see that, but I guess, like, not every, from my perspective, unless, like, we really are, like, super attracted to the guy, not a lot of us like dick pics.
Right.
Like, usually we want to, like, be in some type of, like, some kind of relationship, be even a situationship. We have to be somewhere on a comfortable level. But so for a guy to, like, I've never even met you in person, and you're, like, sending me pictures of your wiener is, like, just automatic turn off.
I mean, they don't have a good reputation, I don't think, like.
But I guess it works for some guys because
they're very calm, like.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, I understand there is a percentage of women out there that are into that kind of thing. I would say for us classy ones, we're not like that. We don't want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the world of, like, kinky people or people who want to, are doing the free sex. It's a sexual revolution. Maybe, like, was the sexual revolution a net bad or?
It's a superficiality complex,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, because we're being taught we want the 666 category, right? A man has to be over 6 feet tall. He must have a 6-figure income and a 6-inch dick. And, like, we're being taught this kind of stuff. So normally, like, men are the ones that are visual creatures, and so men are the ones that need to be physically attracted to a female in order to, like, want to pursue her and get to know more. We are more likely to to grow to like a guy physically. So we don't have to be physically attracted right away. And so this is where we've gotten, where I know dating apps have really screwed us up, because we're getting like just this plethora of different applicants essentially. So
Yeah.
now we're looking at like the check marks of like what's on the application. Is he over 6 feet? Does he make over six figures? And then I guess piques that curiosity of like, does he have the last member too? And so, but again, if you get to know somebody organically, these are things that, at least classy women, we don't care so much about. Because I've met guys that were on the shorter end, and I totally like them. I didn't care about their height. It wasn't a requirement. He can make a lower income, and I'd be totally fine. Just like, can't be like something crazy like 30,000 a year. In today's economy at this age, I just, there's certain requirements, but not every one of us are looking for that super high end, like top dollar value guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was that was showed up on my social media account. This excerpt from the Ugly Truth movie, which was like Catherine. Anyways, this guy was giving a speech about how girls are just checking boxes with you, yada yada, as opposed to like being romantic, But you're saying there can be romance, or there's still romantics out there.
Oh yeah, tons of us, and not. But it's just because it's too short of a time frame. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Only meeting online and then maybe one date. I'm gonna go based on the superficial stuff because that's all I know. But if I get to know a guy organically, so meaning dates, and so when it gets to the point of where I decide whether if I like him fully or not, that's gonna take time for most of us. And so when men are just jumping straight into trying to have sex right away, or too afraid to like not make a good impression, and so they're trying to like spend all their money on like a extravagant first date. Again, if a woman is requiring that, then take that as a red flag. But getting to know her, I think like a picnic on a hike is totally romantic and a great way to get to know me. But those things never get offered. It's always the expectation to take me somewhere extravagant. And so I've even had men like back out, I'll get ghosted. And then one finally opened up and said he feels like I'm just using men to go on dates. And I was like, I just told you I wanted you to figure out what we're doing. I would have been totally fine to go to Chipotle, or to like go on a hike and have a picnic, or not even a picnic, but I just assume it'd be smart to bring snacks if we're gonna be out there for 2-3 hours. But it's just sort of that assumption. And then I think then when men put in so much financial obligation, then they more or less want a return. But if we stop thinking that way and just find ways to get to know each other, then it sort of takes that pressure off. But because we don't meet each other organically, that's ultimately like what's becoming a huge problem, because you don't. I mean, I think the gym is a great way to get to know each other. You see each other often, but you got to take the initiative and like get into that conversation.
And maybe, and you're speaking, and that's maybe, especially for people who are going there as like clients, as opposed to like where you work, then it's maybe less available.
Well, I mean, even when I'm not working, I still like. I'm probably in a gym like 6-7 days a week.
There you go. Yeah.
So I will work out there, and I will still see that I'm getting checked out. And, guys will do exactly that. They'll ask, am I using this? You walked across the room to ask for this one dumbbell that there's like 3 other setups over there that you could have grabbed. I know what you're doing, but ask me an open-ended question, because I answered your question. I said yes or I said no. Well, that doesn't leave a lot of room for, me to respond to anything else. And I'm not going to initiate the conversation. So why can't you?
We were talking about like, we were talking about the online dating space, but like it's and a little bit about how like screen addiction has like changed it, because guys are a little less prone to they've got this digital option. They get in the digital queue to try to get find some woman that they play the numbers game, but they say men are addicted, especially with screens, to like gaming, and I guess maybe to playing this particular numbers game. What do you think women are most addicted to on the in the digital space? Like what do you what kind of feedback do you get when you talk to women about that, or do you find it particularly engaging? Any or things that you try to watch yourself on in terms of using that stuff?
So I would say, from my experiences, more females are into like social media posts, selfies, just always having to post everything that they have going on in their lives. So I am more recently just kind of using more social media platforms for my own business, for my own, because I'm a fitness trainer, but also a fascia specialist. So, trying to get the word out there that I can help people get out of pain naturally.
Tell us what that is, because I saw that on your Instagram, and I don't know what it is. Yeah.
So fascia is so think like how we will get a cut on our skin and we'll get scar tissue. And so fascia kind of works like that underneath our skin. Like if we get like microscopic tears in our muscle fibers, fascia kind of recruits to hold it together. And so over time, we will get these big fascial knots underneath our skin that can really obstruct like our movement patterns. And so now finding that it also obstructs our lymphatic system, there's a lot of health conditions that I'm finding that is being related to fascia. Fascia is very largely unstudied, so our medical system doesn't really know a whole lot about it. And so I help people get out of pain naturally and help them avoid surgeries and help them improve their overall health. Just by understanding the human body and how I can help them through that. And so because I study two different industries, which is the fitness industry and the massage industry, I've been able to help people with some pretty miraculous changes. And so I really want to get the word out there that like these things are possible to do. But first we have to understand the system that is not really in our like medical science. So people are going to the doctors for like things like shoulder impingements or knee arthritises, and it's like, but that's not the actual problem. Like there's other things going on that we have to address first. And then especially because we're in this Google era, right? So we're going and finding things online. It's so easy to like self-diagnose and find things that we think is wrong, but doesn't necessarily mean that is the problem. So that's something that I've been using the social media platform to sort of promote. But I tend to work mostly in person, kind of organically. And so I've had so many requests in the past several months that I finally started to create content to put it out there. And so I do see that, unfortunately, because of social media, there's even a lot of people that there's so much misinformation out there that I feel like we're living in this like land of confusion, and people are getting more and more confused every day. Because instead of, taking some time to sort of like think with our logic and understand things like proprioception and understanding inside of our bodies, we're just getting more and more scared. And so I feel like
Proprioception
is it's more of like an internal outlook. So when I'm training somebody, and especially when it comes to muscle isolation, because they need to strengthen this particular muscle to help relieve pain, instead of teaching them form, I teach them like, okay, do you feel this? And when you do this series of actions, this is where you need to feel it, versus like you need your hands in this position, your back, in this position, that position. I mean, I teach them all that stuff too, but the biggest key that makes me very different and why people understand my methods, like when you're working with me in person, is that because I teach them proprioception. And so I've come to find that like we've been really taught to fear pain so much that we don't know the difference between a workout pain and like a pain. So people are scared to try new things because they're just so afraid to do something wrong. And because there's so much misinformation out there, we're just in a land of confusion. And that's for my like professional work. But then overall seeing, because there's a mind-body connection even in fitness, but seeing that mind-body connection is also a lot related to screens, social medias. Women have I see it more in women. I'll call it what it is. Men are not so into like shows like the murder documentaries and like the Law and Order SVUs and all that stuff, the forensic sciences. So I feel like that's creating this crazy paranoia in women that I hope would kind of get to a point of like pulling back on that a little bit, because I mean, it.
So they'd be afraid to. That's what that was a perception I have, is that maybe since COVID, women are less likely to even be out.
Oh man, yes, it's pretty bad. I used to watch all those shows, and then during the pandemic, I just personally had a lot of things going on, and so I had to sort of like detox from everything negative. If like I couldn't even be on my social media, I couldn't watch any TVs, I couldn't watch any shows, anything negative, and I would just kind of lose it. So I started reading a lot, and I started going on a lot more walks and just getting out there and getting more in tune with myself. And it was the greatest decision I ever made, because now looking back on seeing how much that's affecting us and putting us in fear, where we're I mean, now I watch it. There are quite a few women that like they're too afraid to like let their kids out of their sight. Even to trust the other parent. Like, I mean, that's their dad. Like you can't just not trust the man that also like created these kids. But also like for dating experiences, they're always looking for like the guy that's just trying to play them, or just every guy's a dirtbag. And if we keep thinking like that, then of course we're going to treat every man like he's a dirtbag. So it's creating this like kind of misconception in my experiences, because I talk to a lot of men, because of the way, the type of work that I do. I would actually say that a majority of men are good dudes. Like, they're good guys. They're just very misunderstood. And so maybe a lot of guys don't know how to sort of communicate that. But
you've had good experiences with men.
Yeah, just getting to know them on a personal level. And women are not as good at communicating as they think they are. They're good at communicating what they think they are communicating. They're not usually listening to what a man is truly saying, because men don't communicate the way that women do. Men are not taught to talk about things, and even when they try to, I can see their nerves will tend to come up so quickly. There's a very few percentage of men that do talk a lot, and they are known as the talkers, and so they can be good communicators. And so we may have this misconception that all men are able to talk about things. Actually, in my experience, most of them can't. They won't. They'll talk to each other more casually, more. I always say, like, men are fantastic flirts, but only to each other. Like, go to a gym and watch them talk to each other, but they will never speak to women that way. Like, the good guys don't. They're not like that. Maybe so. What's happening is that a lot of women, they will all play into the same 10% of men that are players. And then they get this misconception that all men are like that. And I'm like, no, that's like 10% of them. Most guys are good guys. Most of them are respectful. But if you're going to throw yourself at them, they're going to take it,
Apparently it's like this. I've seen social media accounts. There's one called Ho Math that I know it's whatever, but it's all he's real smart. He does all these drawings, and he talks about he has like a ladder and says that, and basically breaks people down like people are based on their options.
Yeah.
Like they're
yes, all women are going after the same 10% of guys.
Right.
And
so those guys tend to be players, but then the guys then a lot of guys are. So then women say all guys are players, but that's because it's the ones that they actually are interacting with or want. But then those are the ones that have options. So yada yada yada, which is maybe always been true, but like the social media accentuates it, or because it expands the reach of who people think they have a shot with, or.
I would say that is largely to do with dating apps, because we have just an absolute like plethora of messages and different options, that we're going to naturally go for the more attractive ones. Because why not? If we're looking at a pool of 50 different guys, I'm going to naturally go after the like 4 or 5 ones that are extremely attractive. But if in real life, and that man also is, surrounded by 50 other women, he's going to only pick certain ones that he's going to go after too. And then especially when it comes to like who he's going to go after on a dating sense, or like actually want to get to know her for something more, he's going to tend to pick the most attractive ones. And so because of dating apps, and because it's easy for a woman to look any type of way and get a bunch of guys that will have sex with her, like every guy is going to be willing to have sex with her. That's just how guys are. But the ones that are going to want to actually date her and then marry her, not every guy is just going to go after just any female. Like, she has to have something to offer. And then another misconception that a lot of women have is that men don't care how much money we make or what kind of career we have, or like, you know, I mean, well, we have to think of it on both perspectives. Like, they care how she treats him. How does she make him feel? But then put the shoe on the opposite foot. We think the same way too. We're more about how does he make me feel, you know? And that is, you know, there are the external factors that come with that too, but men and women are gauged for different reasons, right? Men are more gauged based on like what's his success level, what does he bring to the table as far as like financial stuff or physical, you know, things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas women tend to be more, you know, yes, it's going to be largely based on her looks. It is going to be largely based on
judged based on
right.
Yeah,
right, because you know that's just the reality of it, you know, and we can argue it, we can get mad about it, or we can accept it for what it is. So when women are so focused on, oh well, I am, you know, worth something because I have this good career and I make this good money and I have this nice house and they have this nice car, it's like, but men don't really care about that. They care about, is she sweet, is she kind, has she done her own personal work to where she can be peaceful? Does she work on herself, to work on her body, to be physically attractive, that he's going to find her physically attractive? And the biggest thing is that, has she worked on herself enough to be in tune with her femininity, which that is what is so lost in our culture today. Femininity is, I mean, let's call it what it is. We're all designed by nature to be mothers, whether if we are a mother or if we're not a mother. And as a mother, my intuition, my natural primal instinct is intuition. So I'm going to be able to communicate with a child too young to speak. When my son doesn't have the emotional capacity to tell me what's really going on because he can't, I am so in tune with him, I know what he needs from me. So you just take that and you channel that into a man. It's very simple, but we've lost that art form that's ultimately what men want, is more than sex, more than, you know, her good looks, is like, is she able to actually be in tune with him, to be that peace for him when he's exhausted from fighting the war outside of home? Can he go home and can he be at peace? But then he comes home and the first thing she wants is to start an argument with him. And it's like, that's exactly what he doesn't want. It doesn't matter how much money she makes. It doesn't matter what she financially brings to the table. It matters on that little aspect there. Can she at least read him enough to know, okay, right now is not the time. Give him some time, give him space. Does he need a hug? Does he need food? Does he need a blowjob? What does he need? You know, it's just very simple. But women don't talk to women anymore on the real things. We are taught to be men. What are our finances? What are we looking, like, what's our career? What's our career goal? What, you know, we're being taught, you know, who has the nicest car, who has the nicest clothes, and so now we're looking for superficial things, but none of that really matters in the end anyway, because now we're the most unhappiest generation of all time. So
yeah, what was it you were saying when we were during the break? That we're the least social, the most isolated generation?
Social media has made us into the most socially isolated generation of all time. The most socially awkward generation of all time, which is very ironic. And as somebody who actually goes out there and talks to people and gets to know people, I see a very different perspective. Because yes, I find people are too stuck in their own little fantasy world, whatever version it is, because now it's getting even worse, right? Because at least back when you had one television in your living room. Families had television time, so they'd watch a movie together. Growing up, we had 3 channels. Well, unless you were rich and had cable, which I was poor. So we had 3 channels. So at least even in schools, we all watched the same shows. So we all knew the same references, the same movies, the same songs, the same this, the same that. But now it's like everybody has their own screen, and so they're watching different things. They're paying attention to different things. Social media now follows your algorithms. So whatever it is that you look up, if you're into murder documentaries, if you're into gossips and you know, the TMZs and whatever paparazzi stuff, that's probably even the old school stuff. You know, whatever it is that somebody's into, you know, oh God, and then like politics on top of that too. Like whatever you're into, the social media is gonna follow that algorithm. So we're getting more and more disconnected, like by the day.
I should start asking guests what's in your algorithm. That'll be like that could be the lead off of like any interview, because it just kind of like tells a lot about like, but it's also a little private, you know. Like you know, certainly when I'm at work, I don't necessarily want people to see my algorithm, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean,
math. I don't want people to. You know.
So with my social media, it's always positive stuff. So I don't see any of these negative things. Like I don't watch the news. I freaking hate that show. I get enough news from people telling me what's going on that's enough for me. But everything is like positive quotes, words of affirmations, you know.
That's good. Sounds like a good algorithm. Yeah.
Yeah, but I chose that because I chase after those things. So I like to say attitude is a choice, and we get to pick a different one. So we get to make the choice. Do we want to be a happy person, or do we want to be like miserable? But you know, if we're not trying to be happy, then what are we trying to be?
What do you have a son or a daughter?
I have a son.
What do you, so how are you, like, what are your concerns as he gets to, you know, because when he gets to be a teenager, then it's like pretty much all the stuff we're talking about is almost like, you know, high school never ends type of stuff. So that's when he'll be living it. But right now he's 9, is that?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, what are you telling him to, like, is it, what you're telling us here, is that kind of what you're telling him a lot? Like, he's getting this message?
So I teach him things like, because I see the social influences that are happening even in schools to my kid. And I teach him all the time, I'm not raising those kids. I'm raising you. And I'm going to raise you to be very different. And I know that that's frustrating and is, in a way, creating a social awkwardness in him as well. But usually when people talk to him, they're really surprised that he's only 9 years old, because I raise him with very old school values, and there are some things that about the current times that do scare me, of how kids are being raised. I personally think that if you're not monitoring your kids, everything, their cell phones, their tablets, their video games, he doesn't even have a social media. But if you're not monitoring their social medias, like, then you're negligent as a parent, because it is a terrifying world out there. They could be on Roblox talking to a stranger who's posing as a child. So,
and a lot of his 9-year-old classmates have social media?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
That would trouble me. And they have like Instagram for teenagers now. It's like I've seen those ads, but I hope there's not too many 9-year-olds with the social media accounts.
That is definitely thing. And one of the things, perhaps because I'm not like the most politically correct person, it's a struggle. It's like everything's offensive today. Like, I got pulled into the office the other day because they were explaining to me that my son was calling other kids retarded. And that when they had talked to him, he said he didn't know what that meant. And I was like, he may not. I don't think about these things, because in my generation, to say, man, stop being gay, like, that was just a normal thing that we said. And so realizing that like everyone's offended by something, and so like you can't even say anything. Otherwise, like, you know, someone's being offended by something. Everything is racist. Everything is offensive. Everything is, you know, sexist or bigotry or something. My kid's like one of the less than 10% of the white kids in his school. And so he can't say anything because he's a white boy. So he, you know, gets, you know, trashed on because it's totally socially acceptable for you know, a black kid to, you know, mention something about, oh, you're white, you know, make white jokes. No one gets offended by that. But God forbid a white kid say something the opposite way around. So what we don't realize as a side effect to that is now my son, it's socially acceptable for essentially my son to get bullied because he's a white kid. So it's okay that he's white. It's not, he's white privileged. So it's okay to make fun of him, even though he's growing up with a single mom and is actually, you know, on the poorer end of the scale and doesn't have any white privilege and is a quarter Korean. So it's interesting that, you know, we don't see the side effects of what's being passed down into our kids, but we're not paying attention to because it started all with, you know, wanting to make all this social awareness, but now we're socially awkward, which is interesting. But
Yeah. Yeah. So you try to teach him to be more, I guess, weary of whatever he is gonna take in through through the screens, I guess.
The reason he basically has been saying retarded, I realized it was from me. I was like, just know that people out there are idiots, and you just have to, you know. So not every kid's parents are teaching them this kind of stuff. That teach them the stuff that I teach you.
What kind of stuff? Yeah.
Like, how do you guide your kids through the 67 different genders? They're kids. They're just, when my kid was saying, you know, they're joking to each other about being pansexuals, I had to go figure out what a pansexual was. And then I'm like, I don't even know how to, like, what do I teach my kid? So I was, you know, at a certain point, I just got burnt out on it. Like, one of the parents, I guess, got pissed off because my kid was just being a kid, and like all the kids were teasing him. He chased after everybody, and the one kid that he caught and just kind of trampled over, like, she flipped out on me, and I was like, bro, they're like best friends. They're like best friends. So I finally just told him, like, don't put your hands on so and so, because you know, some parents are retarded, and I don't feel like dealing with them. So I was like, crap, he didn't get that from me. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it in the moment, but I tell him that some people are idiots, and you just have to, you know, let it go. Just let it brush off your shoulders.
Well, I mean, I imagine it's almost like a status competition a little bit from between parents, like, where they can throw shade on each other. But, oh, your kid did this, or, oh, I just want to say that your kid did.
People got mad at me because my son is always getting, like, the highest achievers award in, like, English, and then he just got the highest achiever in math this year. And so it's
congratulations,
like,
yeah.
Thank you. Because my kid is smart. Like, so because I'll talk about it, it's offensive that I brag about my kid. I can't anymore. I've just, you know what? Everyone's got it. I teach my 6-year. Well, I started at 6, but he's 9 now. So I teach him, you know, opinions are like assholes. Some are pretty, some are not. Some smell nice and some don't. And some of them you just flat out don't like, and that's okay. You can validate that everybody has an asshole without liking their asshole. And I don't care. My kid's gonna need therapy one day anyway. So.
So in other words, you try to give them some sort of sense of, like, people skills, like just street smarts, kind of. Yeah.
You know that not everyone's gonna like you. You know, some people are gonna dislike you for whatever reason. Probably has nothing to do with your gender, your race, or your identity, or anything about you. But some people are just people, and people are imperfect creatures. So, you know, let an idiot be an idiot, and just focus on yourself and what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I guess and then we'll see, like, they'll be getting all that social media stuff in a couple of years, right? We'll see how he gets that. Figure out.
I mean, it's definitely getting worse. I mean,
and they'll start asking. He's going to ask somebody out at some point, right? That's going to.
Yeah. He asked me when can he have a girlfriend. I said when he's old enough to know how to treat a girl right, and that if he's not ready to be nice to a girl the way that he would want a man to be nice to mommy, then he's not ready to date.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see how long that lasts. But right now he's 9, and he still thinks that girls have cooties. So.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, it's one theory. So you mentioned you're doing some influencer stuff. You're on Instagram, and how do the different accounts stack up to you? Like, do you prefer one to the other? What's this? How do you feel so far about being an influencer,
Um,
going viral?
so I actually I can like it, and then sometimes I don't, because I will basically talk about a lot of things that are I guess a bit controversial, because I'm a big advocate for change, not just in our medical system but in general. Like, even I think I have a couple posts about I tried to advocate for men, advocate for the power of fathers. I advocate for the power of, like, let's just go back to simple stuff, how much our body dysmorphia has gone crazy, and now we have 11-year-olds using filters. That's why you see the girls with their lip injections and all the BBLs and all the surgeries and stuff. Like, it's getting worse.
BBLs?
Where they pull fat out of different parts of their body and
Okay.
shove it back in their butt.
Okay.
Yeah. you could work out and build a butt. Like, you can myofascial release can actually help to reshape your body. So you could do it naturally, but all we know is surgeries. So yeah.
You said old-fashioned leg lifts? To build your body, or?
Yeah. So I think we got to get to a point where we stop. Like, we have like a few traditional workouts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of women's problems is you have to stop working out like men. Women should focus more on, like, hips and glutes and legs and core strength in general, and it gives us better results than if we are continuing to do deadlifts or even trying to do bench presses. Like, unless you are one of those girls that have a naturally very feminine physique, by nature, quite a few of us have. Also, when you understand, like, weight gain, testosterone makes us gain our weight in our belly. That's why men tend to get beer guts. Estrogen makes us gain in our hips and our butt area. That's why women tend to get more curvy. So with also our lymphatic system, a weak lymphatic system can cause inflammation in different areas and can cause us to have hormonal imbalances. And this is why you're seeing more of a rise with women that are gaining their weight more like men. So those are the women I want to target the most. I don't like that word, target, that I want to reach out to the most. Of, like, we can actually change our bodies if we understand the science, and that there's more science to the human movement system than just, let me teach you how to deadlift 500 pounds. Like, stop learning from these men and start learning from women bodybuilders, and not, like, competition bodybuilders, which again is more traditional. Women, reach out to us women that are about women transformation in our bodies, and how we build and sculpt our bodies through fitness and through myofascial release, and that we can actually change our physique, and we don't need an look, you're gonna spend 10 grand on a BBL, right? And it's gonna take you months and months and months, and they look terrible. At least the process of working with a really good trainer that can teach you this stuff, you can obtain that body naturally. So that's kind of like, what I'm trying to put out there for more women to understand.
Okay, and so, and I guess women are, but I guess what TikTok's like shorter form stuff.
Well,
unless you do a lot of, like, sped up video, sometimes it's kind of a fun thing.
Well,
music.
the advantage to TikTok is that people can ask questions, and then you can record a response to that question. So it can be a longer response. It can be up to 10 minutes. So I do have a couple women that will reach out to me and ask me questions on, like, okay, how can I get rid of my tendonitis or something? And then I'll record a little demo and kind of explain things there, so that way they can understand it a little bit better. So I feel like TikTok does work a little bit better in that sense, especially because it kind of just, the algorithms will naturally just push out the information, and depending on how active you are on there, like, there's certain guidelines that you have to follow with TikTok that is a little different than, like, say, Facebook or Instagram. So if you want to build on social media, TikTok is definitely the one to go to.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a good building block. That's interesting. But because so Instagram has, like, its reels and
Yes.
like, or your Instagram posts. A lot of your Instagram posts are actually TikTok posts. Is that right?
So I posted on all 3 of my accounts, and then
what's the third one?
Facebook.
Okay.
And then I think I have, like, a Thread and Lemon 8. I'm actually brand new to social media world, and
Threads
learning
is
how
Instagram's.
yeah,
like,
it's owned by Instagram.
Okay.
So I personally still don't really know how Instagram works.
Uh-huh.
I'm learning. It's interesting. I can read the human body like a book, but put me in front of like any kind of technology and I do not know what I'm doing. But I'm learning to navigate it the best I can, and it's all a learning process.
I mean, yeah, it looks like you know what you're doing.
Hey, that's like only in the last 6 months.
And I guess how long have you been doing fitness training?
I have been a fitness trainer. I was first certified in 2012, and so, but this has been a big part of my life since I was 23 is when I first got back into the gym. So about 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
and but
Back into the gym, like you were in it before, and then you stopped, and then
I was always an active kid. I was always overweight. I was diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome in my 20s.
Polycystic ovary syndrome.
It's a hormonal imbalance, and so I actually did not think that I could ever have kids. And so, but by losing the weight is how I magically got pregnant with my miracle child. And so that's what motivated me to go help other women learn how to lose weight, so that way we could have, because it's so much more than just aesthetics. It's about our health, and that we can literally rewrite our health by getting fit. But there's technique involved, right? Like, so balance and stability, and then also shaking, right? Like they had those vibrating plates that I know people think is silly. I mean, if you think about Jack LaLanne, he was the one that had that like vibrating plate that had it had a band that would go around your butt and it would like shake your butt. Like, oh my gosh, that was so genius. Like, I wish they would come back with that so bad, because it's such a great idea. Because we're having a lot of hip distortions, glute weaknesses, because we drive and because we sit too much. So a lot of pains, a lot of sciaticas, a lot of knee issues, foot pains, even migraines, more related to weak glutes. You'd be surprised.
Jack LaLanne's hip vibrating thingy.
Yeah. So Jack LaLanne, for those that are not familiar with him, he was a really old school fitness influencer, and he was insane. He was able to like pull a train. I think he would swim to like I forget. He would swim miles and he would pull like rowboats. Like he himself, his body was like a machine. And even when and so I didn't know about him until I started working with a lot of seniors, and they were like, "You got to look up Jack LaLanne."
When did that start? When did you start working with so many seniors?
Pretty much like the majority of my career, just
Okay.
because I guess in a sense they're kind of like more like job security for a trainer,
Uh-huh.
because they're the ones that have the money to afford regular training, and they're the ones that have the most pain, and
They
that
have
I
a
can
need,
help the
yeah.
most. Yeah. So I've had a number of them avoid surgeries, fix things that they didn't even think was possible. Getting results in a 75-year-old is really incredible. Like when, a grandma can now compete with her grandkids, and she has better mobility and flexibility than her own grandkids. It's pretty incredible to watch. So I originally started wanting to help women, but somehow that managed to morph into me being able to like help anybody. And so, I still want to help women understand that we have options. But I also love being able to bring a grandparent back to their grandkids, mainly because I guess 2019 is what really got me kind of obsessed with that. I lost my father to the pharmacy mindset. What I call it, the pharmacy mindset, where we're looking for like a magical solution, like a magic pill that's going to solve all our problems. But the reality is that some of our problems are not a medication. Some of our problems is you need to move your body. We are designed to be active creatures,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to move and build muscle. And so it wasn't until after he passed that we didn't even know most of the medications he was on. And now it's like, just as he was losing himself towards the end of his life, we didn't understand it. How do you understand stuff like that, right?
How old was he?
He was only 69 when he passed, and he was he had diabetes, kidney failure, congestive heart disease, and he basically just like died in my mom's arms. And so going back and like when we cleared out his office and like seeing all the medications that he had, like, why are you prescribing a dying man Viagra? Like, some of these things didn't make any sense to me. So I guess that's what really started the obsession of like, if I can help anybody off of their medications or off of their,
presumably it was to help him have sex with your mom.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe there's some other reason. Maybe there is some other reason. I don't know.
I have no idea. It was generationally taught, where they were just looking for some magical drug to solve their problems. So he was even going online trying to build stuff like the muscle building, like protein shakes and stuff. And it's like, but that's not how that stuff works. That it enhances your muscle building if you're working out. You don't just sit in front of a computer and take this stuff and it's going to make you build muscle. Unfortunately, you have to go build it yourself. So that's why I'm very inspired to help seniors like take control of their health and take control of their life, because it's usually not until you reach a certain age that you realize, if I don't start doing something, I'm going to die. And unfortunately, like, we usually have to get pushed to that level of an extreme before we change. And it's sad because there's a lot of people that are losing themselves by living behind a screen because we're withering away and we're kind of like sitting ourselves to death. Is really what it is. Like, our bodies are designed to move. Like, even our scapular development and how we got our scapulas back here is because we learned how to climb trees and swing on branches. And, think Tarzan stuff. I mean, that's why President Kennedy back in the old days required physical education and at a level of extreme, because we need that to like climb ropes and like pegboards, right? A lot of seniors, they remember those days that it sucked. But it's incredible when I'm able to bring someone in their 70s back to life. And so it makes sense to them and they understand it. And in addition to that, now we sit in cars and we basically put couches in our cars and we strap ourselves into these cars and we're
the car seat is like a couch. That's a good comparison. Yeah.
It's, we're essentially losing all of our core strength. Like, we wonder why we have no balance, because if your pelvis is your center of gravity, our glutes and our hips, like our lumbopelvic hip complex, that is what stabilizes us. So if we lose all the muscle mass there, I don't care how strong your biceps are. You literally need butt strength.
So what does one need to, what exercises does one use? I guess I'll check your webpage for that. I saw some of them.
You know what? I've helped bus drivers. Just shoulder blades, bring them down, pinch them together, tuck your tummy, and not suck it in to where you can't breathe. Tuck it. Like, if I was going to come punch you in your stomach, what do? You tighten it, right? So tighten your tummy and then squeeze your butt. Like, even in my classes, I'll do one of my workouts is called cheek to cheek squeeze, where I make them squeeze one butt cheek and then next and alternate. And it's really funny because when you have a group of them and making them do that, like, they're just laughing about it. But
sure,
it actually strengthens their glutes. But see, that's why when you think about if you're sitting in a boat, like, or if you're sitting on a horse, or go on a roller coaster, what do naturally? Tighten your core up. And so we get stronger there. And so we're losing a lot of stability because while we're sitting on the couch in our car, strapped in by a seatbelt, and only using our forearms and one leg to drive, then we're creating these huge imbalances in our body and wonder where all of our pains are coming from. Well, you have one foot that's way more dominant, and then you turn out of the car on your left leg and you balance on the left leg. And you wonder why one leg is so much more dominant than the other. And it's like, but what's the common denominator? It's cars, And then I have my whole spiel about toilets and how, we don't squat down. How do you shit in the woods? Call it what it is. How do you poop in the woods? You squat all the way down and you let it all go, and then you stand up. But we now sit on toilets and we wonder why.
I'm sure somebody's already tried to make a business out of that, like replace your toilet with a hole in the.
I wish they would. Squatty potties, but it's not just the fact of desk jobs. It's overall lifestyle pattern. We're not moving like we would. Go camping for 3 days. Like, legit camping, no electricity, no toilets out there. Like, go start a fire and like go catch fish or something to eat and see how hard it is to live. But we're designed for that kind of life. So we're crippling ourselves because we don't live like that. Our shoulder impingements are because we don't lift our hands above our head anymore, because our showers pour water right on top of our head. so we don't even have to dump water on our head to bathe anymore. I mean, think about how much work it takes to go pump water out of a well and bring water back into the house just to take a bath.
Right. So we have it so easy. So therefore we're falling apart. Yeah.
Yep. So it's very ironic that we've been trained to like go to these colleges and get these really good education so we can have a desk job and we can make a lot of money working these desk jobs, only to have to cycle back around to pay money into a gym and to go jump onto the human hamster wheel called a treadmill. We have to force ourselves to exercise. And it's like all because we eliminated the need to catch a chicken, kill the chicken, clean the chicken, cook the chicken, and that was dinner. And we had to do that every single day just to eat. But we don't do that anymore. So.
And we have to get away from our computer screen addiction to go do that. And then ironically, to get the message to people, you have to create content for the screens.
Yeah, the irony of it all. But yeah, that's how I have to reach through to people. And then flat out, there's just quite a few people out there that they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work. And I'm like, so even when I teach them things.
I don't want to do the work.
You can literally just sit there and squeeze your butt. Like squeeze your cheeks. And so sometimes I will create the craziest, like simplest workouts and people still won't do them. But then the ones that do them and do get dedicated, you will literally reverse your age. It's crazy.
I have no butt. I don't have a butt.
Most of us don't because we sit down too much. And that's really what it is. Because up until 30 years ago, people at least roller skating was a huge thing in the 70s and the 80s. It was screens. It was too much technology that has eliminated the need to have to go out and socialize, to go out and go find ways to entertain ourselves. Now kids are afraid to even be at the skating rink and act silly because they're too afraid to act cringe. And I'm like, I'm the one that acts like an idiot in the skating rink, just trying to hype the kids up to act like kids. But because back when we were kids, there was no evidence to us being cringe. There was no evidence to us acting like idiots. So we just acted like idiots because that's what kids do.
But I think that is, when they get to a certain age, then adolescence, you get embarrassed about being a kid.
Yeah. So I guess maybe that's why I make a fool of myself out there. Because, why not? Cheek-to-cheek squeeze. What trainer comes up with workouts like that? And this is what gains my popularity in my work is, you just don't understand it. But then when you feel it for the next 3 days and feel better because now you have better balance, you walk better, you move better, you can get up and down from the floor better. It makes sense after a while. But initial phases, people have a hard time understanding what is the purpose to some of my workouts. But and some of them, I call it the porta potty stand up. So you sit down, but you don't fully sit down. You inch above the porta potty, like, ew, I don't want to touch the gross porta potty. So a lot of people don't understand how I'm trying to get them into a hinge motion to isolate on certain muscles.
It's kind of like a squat, right? Yeah.
So it's, but the way you kind of bend backwards.
Yeah, a lot of us, our squats we bend in the knees instead of.
Because we plop down on the couch, so we plop down on the toilet. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it's
a porta potty, then you wouldn't want to do that. Okay, that's smart. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, and hey, I say that's a real life skill right there, because there's going to be that moment that you have to use a porta potty and you do not want to touch that thing. And in those moments is when you're going to want the balance and stability to make sure you don't touch that porta potty.
And it's a realistic solution because you want to sometimes it's like, oh, maybe you can you let yourself touch it, but you don't want to you still don't have enough balance, so you just touched it. You didn't
well, what about
let
in
your
those
whole
moments,
body touch it,
And what if in that moment you really don't want to touch it, and
sure,
because maybe it's covered in someone else's urine or feces.
Right.
You're gonna want to make sure that you have the balance and stability that you don't have to. Hey, you're a man. You don't understand this perspective.
Urine and feces.
As a woman, see, we have to sit down to go potty.
It's true.
So
yeah.
There's been many of moments, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
because
I'm
I
not
was
touching
thinking
that
that
thing.
in that moment I was like, oh, you could just maneuver around it a little bit. No,
No,
yeah.
not as a woman.
Yeah.
So especially because we have to pull our pants down. So I love the fact that I have the mobility that I can stand over the porta potty. If I have to lift one leg up and be in an awkward position, that I can isometrically hold myself in that position, and do that in high heels and being drunk. That's a real life skill right there.
Yeah, seems like it. Well, awesome. Well, Mimi, very cool to sit down with you. So
Thank you.
people can Mimi Pine 86 is your account.
Yep, my Instagram
How
account.
people reach you across. Oh, should we get your TikTok as well? Then
Yeah, it's foam rolling with Mimi.
Foam rolling.
Mhm.
So that's styrofoam.
It's a foam roller, so it's really popular in the gym industry and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sports industry.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like a
It's
pool
cylindrical.
noodle.
Yeah, yeah.
It was originally created from a guy that was working construction, and he was in so much pain, he just started rolling on a PVC pipe to like get some of the pain out, and then from there it got revolutionized into the gym industry. Tom Brady actually foam rolls every day, and Tom Brady became Tom Brady.
Yeah, no, a buddy of mine set me up with that and a lacrosse ball. He told me to use a lacrosse ball for my feet.
You bring back the pliability, muscle pliability, and it's pretty incredible what can be done with that.
Well, thanks for your time. I mean, it's really nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Wish we
same.
could talk for more. All right.